I can introduce Scott Hall, that's going to be our speaker today. So he works for the West Valley City Fire Department, currently assigned as the Medical Division Battalion Chief. He's worked with Fire EMS for nearly 15 years, 12 of that as a paramedic. He enjoys the work he's able to do because it gives him a chance to help the citizens of West Valley, advocate for the EMS patients, and make connections with like-minded professionals. While not working, he enjoys spending time with his family, especially taking trips to his restored motorhome or in his restored motorhome, which sounds awesome. All right, Scott, I will turn it over to you.
All right, thanks, Jamie.
Thank you.
I appreciate the opportunity to be here and speak about home cleaning and decoration safety tips. That's the topic that Jamie asked me to speak on. And as I was looking through what to present on, I thought, man, this all seems like pretty straightforward information, but it may be a pretty good reminder. I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about ladders and ladder safety and some tips and tricks for ladders. But let's see. Can I share my screen? Let me see here. Yep. 1 second. All right, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so like I said, spend a little bit of time talking about home cleanup and decoration safety. Try to work in quite a few videos into this so that you wouldn't have to listen to me talk. And I'm not sure what the demographics are of the group on today. So a lot of this might be just a reminder, especially on some of the medical treatments, but I think it's a good reminder for all of us. I know for me, like if I'm learning how to put a tourniquet on, I'm always like, is it 2 inches above or is it at the pressure point? So I hope this is at least a good review for everyone. So the things I want to touch on, first and probably longest is going to be ladder safety. Obviously in the fire service, we train a lot on the right ways to use ladders, and I'll share some of the information with you. Go over a little bit of data about falls. Falls are a big issue in the country, as I'm sure all of you know, and one of the number one things that we can prevent. We'll talk about electrical safety, how to safely put up electrical decorations, how to store them, and some of the issues that we're running into with lithium-ion batteries that we're seeing more and more of. Storage and disposal of decorations, the right way to store them, the right way to get rid of them, what you should get rid of. Christmas tree safety, this is where the cool videos are. Got some really good videos on why you should probably consider not having a live tree. And that's coming from a person who had live trees pretty much my entire life until I became a firefighter, and I've switched to artificial. And there's good reasons for that. And hopefully I'll be able to show you all why. And then the last thing is close before you doze. This is my pitch from the fire department since Jamie gave me the floor. So I'm going to use the time to push a project called Close Before You Doze that's being pushed throughout the country. Something that will save lives when it comes to structure fires. All right, so ladder safety. For me, the best way to learn is to see how other people do it wrong. So I've got a little quick video of people not using ladders the correct way.
I gotta tell you something. I have this ladder. It is awesome. Oh, no, everybody wants this ladder. I live in an apartment with
So Scott, we can't see your video. We can just hear it.
Can't see it?
No.
All right, 1 second. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
I'm glad you let me know. All right, let me go back to the Zoom.
As I say, if they're not embedded, you might just have to stop share and then reshare the video screen and then come back to your slides.
Okay.
And then I always just remind everybody to remember when you share a screen, hit share your sound too.
Okay. How do I get back to my screen share?
So it should be if you escape out of this or across the top, should be able to stop sharing.
Oh, right there.
Yeah.
I see it.
There we go.
Okay. Share screen. All right. Let's turn that volume up. Let's try this. Better?
So look at how to use the ladder there. I gotta tell you something. I have this ladder. It is awesome. Oh, well, now and everybody wants this ladder. I live in an apartment with vaulted ceilings. Uh-oh. Okay, we're gonna make sure that Chris is okay.
So you have to get up on the wall, hack it, and go, hey, listen, this wall right up. I tell you, it's very safe, it's durable, and it's lightweight. So really, you think, God, Carol, are you okay? I didn't have a lot.
It's one of my favorite ones right here.
Crews were battling a warehouse fire in Pompano Beach this morning. Cell phone video capturing, look at that terrifying moment when one of the firefighters fell 20 feet from that ladder.
All right, so some good examples of what not to do. Let me go back to sharing the PowerPoint. All right, so like I said, some good examples of what not to do. So let's talk about a few things that went wrong. First thing, on a lot of those videos, people were working way too high on the ladder. And we'll talk about how high you should be working on a ladder. Not maintaining 3 points of contact with the ladder. They had both hands off of the ladder. Some cases they were just hanging on with their hands. Not a good idea. Ladders placed on unstable or uneven surfaces. This is a big issue almost in every single one of those videos. Even the firefighter ones, which we talk about this all the time, you notice that they had them on slippery, icy surfaces without somebody heeling the ladder. A lot of people don't think about this, but heels are a big issue when you're placing a ladder. There were no spotters, or there's improper spotting or healers, pretty much non-existent in that entire video. There was the one guy that got mad at his friend. He pretty much just stood there and watched the whole thing come down. He could have prevented that ladder from coming down by doing some simple spotting. So we'll talk about that. Again, slippery surfaces due to weather, rain, ice, snow, mud. And ladders are just in poor general condition, or they're old. Ladders are just like anything else. They break down, they get worn down, and we should consider replacing them when the time comes. So Jamie shared this next video with me. This is from the University of Utah occupational health people. It's pretty funny. So I think they did a really great job on ladder safety. So let's take a quick look at that. Let me share. I'll get this going and then I'll share my screen.
I'm the person that didn't listen to the safety video.
Preparing to safely use a ladder. Inspect for damage. Read all labels or markings. Make sure it is clean. Set up the ladder at a proper angle with the base of the ladder a quarter of the working length of the ladder from the vertical surface. I'm experienced at what I do. Okay, I climbed my first ladder about the same time I stopped drinking from a bottle. Why on earth would I need to inspect a ladder for damage or read its labels before using it? Or even check it to make sure there's no slippery substance? Newsflash, this isn't your grandma's house. It's a workplace.
That's still sharing.
Yeah, it's sharing. It's a little bit slow, but
Use the ladder. Use on a stable surface. Avoid overhead hazards. Make sure locks are engaged. Checklists are for groceries. And I don't need to put my ladder on a stable surface because I can balance like a ballerina. And who needs to worry about shocks and locks when I'm built? The rock. Physical maneuvers to safely use a ladder. Always maintain 3-point contacts. Do not use the top 3 steps or rungs. Do not shift or move the ladder while in use. 3-point contact, I'm making this trip once. As long as my feet are on the rung, I'm good. Oh, not again. If you're like me, you probably thought at the beginning of this safety video that using a ladder is easy, and you're right. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3, as long as you take a moment to think about what you're doing. Here's another thought. Falls are the leading cause of death in the construction industry. Most of those are resulting from unsafe ladder use. Don't fall for the idea that accidents can't happen to you, but you do have the power to avoid them. Remember, there are many people, your family and friends, who are counting on you to be safe at work. Be safe by being smart.
All right. Let's see here. Okay, so let's talk about some key points. Inspecting the ladder. So on ladder inspections, on no matter what type of ladder you're using, you need to look for cracks, dents, discoloration, rust, anything that's not normal. You should pay a lot of attention looking at the attachment points and making sure they're secure. A lot of ladders are put together with rivets, which over time can work themselves loose. So you want to make sure that those all are present and secure. The locking mechanisms, are they in good condition or are they working properly? On an extension ladder, you're going to have locks that hold the extension pieces in place on a rung. Are they both working the same? They're typically have a spring in them, and those springs can wear down over time. On like a typical A-frame type ladder or a step stool, you're going to have some hinges that a lot of times over years, dirt gets built up in them and they can become stiff and they may not be engaged all the way. On extension ladders, do the fly sections freely move in and out? Again, dirt, oil, grime, really hard on ladders. And especially in extension ladders, it can make it so those fly sections don't want to move in and out as freely as they should. And what happens is you'll get one side that goes up freely and the other side that's a little bit hesitant. So you get a little bit of a cockeyed extension, and then the weight's not evenly just distributed. And then on extension ladders, the halyard, the rope that comes down the middle, is it in good condition? Is it frayed? Does it have any tears? Does it have any burns? Does it move easily? Is the pulley present? Has it been properly maintained? So just look over the ladder and make sure that it looks like it's safe to use. Now, when it comes to specific types of ladders and the materials that they're made of, there are some different things you want to look for. On metal ladders, you want to look again at those rivets and fasteners. Those really do start to wear down and can loosen up, or they can completely fall out. That's how most of the ladder is held together. Really pay attention to corrosion and rust. A lot of people don't have big garages to store their ladders in, so they leave them outside, leave them out in the weather. A lot of ladders, metal ladders, are made of aluminum, but they can still start to break down in the weather, especially in the winter time when we're putting salt down. That really does have a hard effect on aluminum. And then the foot pads on the bottom, they typically have a rubber foot pad. Those break down over time. They get loose. They're typically just glued in, maybe riveted in. Are those present? Or are they good working condition? A few of those videos from the very beginning that you saw, there are extension ladders, metal extension ladders on a cement pad, and it slipped out from underneath them. That's probably because those rubber foot pads were in bad condition or just weren't present. So metal on cement is not good. You need to have some type of other material like rubber to help create that contact point. And then if it's welded, or the welds cracked or damaged, once those welds become damaged or cracked, they're pretty much useless at that point as far as being able to hold any amount of weight. Fiberglass ladders, these are great ladders. They last through the weather, they're lightweight, but there are a few things that you need to check for. And the biggest one is splinters of the fiberglass.
Yeah.
The fiberglass can twist when it gets too much weight put on it in the wrong way, and it can actually cause that fiberglass to splinter out. You got to remember, fiberglass is just tiny little fibers that are all put together with an epoxy. So it's a system that all has to work together. So if one part of the fiberglass is twisted, the whole ladder is at risk of not working correctly. Again, metal attachments, make sure that they are all present and in good working order. And then wood ladders, not a lot of these around anymore, but you do see them every so often. A lot of us that have grandparents that maybe, you know, were going through their stuff and they just, from the Depression era, they kept everything. You might find a wood ladder. So on wood ladders, you just want to make sure, oops, where'd it go? That the wood itself is not deteriorated. The finish looks good. It's not scuffed or scraped off. Look for darkening of the varnish. Also look for dark streaks in the wood. Dark streaks in wood is an indicator that it's deteriorated and that water or the elements have gotten into it. If all that looks good, it's strongly suggested that you maintain it by, you know, doing a sanding every year and putting on a fresh coat of varnish. So, and then finally, rounded or smooth components. Wood will start to round the more that you use it. I've got a wood deck. I can tell you I know the third step down is the one that everybody always goes to churn on as they're stepping down, because there's a little rounded edge going towards the left where most of my family walks. It looks fine. It's structurally it's fine, but on a ladder, rounded or smooth components would, especially where you're standing, would not be a good thing. All right, and then look for water damage. If you see any swelling of the wood, that's an indicator of water damage. It's probably just time to get rid of it. So all ladders should have some type of label or marking on them. The information that you can find on those labels, they indicate the proper angle to use the ladder at, especially on extension ladders. It's going to show you what the angle that ladder is designed to be used at. On A-frame ladders, it's going to show you how you should orient the ladder to what you're working on. It'll show the working area of the ladder and what the expected working length is. And we're going to talk a little bit more about those two things here in a bit. Heat indicators. A lot of these stickers will have heat indicators. We check these in the fire department, obviously, because our ladders can be exposed to large amounts of heat or flame, but it's a good idea to check them on your own home ladders also. If you've got a ladder up and on the roof in the hot summer day, there's a lot of heat coming off those roofs. You just want to make sure that the heat hasn't affected the metal. Those heat indicators, it's a sticker. If they get too hot to where it's going to affect the stability or the structure of the ladder, that they will change a color as indicated on the label. And that lets you know, hey, this ladder was exposed to too much heat. And then electrical safety, it will give you an idea about how far away you should stay from electrical lines, if the ladder is conductive, if it's not. Lots of really good information on those stickers that you'll find on pretty much any ladder. All right, so one of the best things you can do to stay safe on a ladder is to make sure it's clean. So look first to see if your ladder is clean. You're going to look for dirt, oil, mud. All these things affect your ability to stay on the ladder in a stable position and for the ladder to work the right way. Dirt's unsafe. It promotes breakdown, especially on those metal components. You get a little bit of dirt in there and the friction just starts to break those soft metals down. Oils can break down the ladders and the components and also makes them slippery. You don't want excessive amount of oils or grime to get onto the rungs to where when you are stepping up or down, you're going to slip. It is important to keep some components of ladders lubricated, but minimal amounts. If you're seeing oils in the side beams of a ladder all the way up and down, that's a good indicator it's time to clean it. It's got a little bit too much oil there. Oils also promote dirt to stick to the metal on the ladder, which then again breaks down the ladder even more. So how do you clean a ladder? Very, very simple. Soft bristle brush, some cool running water, a mild soap. We typically will use like a Dawn dish soap. You just got to be careful about where that water is going to make sure it's not going to like any live streams or ponds to where it could affect the wildlife. Removes tar, oil, grease. Dawn's great for that stuff. That's why they use it to clean ducks. So keep doing that. And then while you're cleaning, look for damage. Do that damage inspection to make sure that your ladder's in good working order. And then you want to wipe the ladder clean with or dry with a clean rag before you put it away. Again, this keeping it wet will promote rust and corrosion, and also promotes dirt from sticking to it. So give it a good wipe down with a clean rag. And then if you need to lubricate certain components of it, go ahead and do that. Manufacturer recommendations for what type of lubrication you should use and where. All right, so let's talk about proper ladder angles specific to extension ladders. So if you have an extension ladder that's the angle's too high, it's not going to be safe to climb. You're going to be more prone to fall backwards as you climb it. When you climb a ladder, it should be like you're climbing steps, like stairs, okay? If your ladder's too shallow, if your angle's too shallow, what it does is it puts all the weight into the middle of the ladder, so you're more likely to either have the ladder slip out from underneath you, or you're likely to break the ladder in the middle. So you want to have a climbing angle to where the weight is driven into the ground and that you're climbing it more like you're climbing a set of stairs. So we use a 4-to-1 ratio. So for every 4 feet that in height that your ladder is going to be, you want it pulled away from the structure for about 1 foot. Now, obviously on the fire ground, we can't sit there and measure this. So we have a really quick and easy way of doing this. And that's the second picture here. So for a person who's I would say just a normal height adult, not someone that's like super tall or super small. If you put your ladder up and then you put your feet against the bottom of the ladder, which is called the heel, and then you put your arms straight out in front of you, your hands should be able to rest on the rung that is in front of you. They shouldn't extend past the rung. They shouldn't be before the rung. If that is where your ladder's at, where you can rest your hands on that rung in front of you, you're at a good climbing angle. That's pretty close to that 4-to-1 ratio, and it should be safe to climb that ladder. All right, a couple things to keep in mind, especially when using extension ladders. The length of the ladder and the height that you need to reach are 2 totally different things. Because we are putting the ladder at an angle, you need to account for the loss of reach that the ladder is going to have. So a good rule of thumb is if the ladder is less than 35 feet, which I think for most people that would be the case, it's 1 foot less of length. So for a 20-foot extension ladder, you're only going to be able to reach the ladder's only going to reach about 19 feet high. If you get above 35 feet, that goes to about 2 feet less in length. So a 40-foot ladder would only reach to about 38 feet high. Now there's a whole nother set of measurements that we need to keep in mind, and that is our ladder height compared to our maximum working height. So we don't want to get too high up on the ladder to where it's going to be unsafe for us and unstable. So we need to think about, okay, my ladder is going to be at 24 feet. where can I realistically reach and still safely work? And that's what this table here is for. So a 24-foot reach on a ladder, and you're going to be able to reach yourself at about 21 feet. So I think for most of us, for where our homes are, this is the 16 feet of ladder height compared to 13 feet of working height is probably more applicable. So just keep that in mind. You don't want, if you go buy a ladder that's going to be able to not only reach the height of where you need to go, but also that you're going to be able to get it high enough to where you can get up to the ladder in a safe point to where you can work safely off of it. So if you have a 16-foot high roof line, probably best to buy a 24-foot ladder as compared to a 20-foot ladder. All right, let's talk about setting up a ladder on stable surfaces. So again, that first video, we saw a lot of unstable surfaces on top of chairs, tables. I was telling Jamie before we started today that as I was showing my wife this presentation, she said, "Hey, haven't you done that before?" I admit it. I put my ladder in the back of my pickup truck once, and it wasn't smart. And I'm very lucky that I didn't fall. Make sure that where you're placing the ladder, that there's no garbage, there's no clutter, there's no scrap materials. When we're doing construction projects, it's hard. You're in a hurry. You got scrap pieces of wood and wire and plumbing all over the place. Take a minute to sweep that stuff away to make sure that you're going to be able to keep your ladder on a stable, flat surface. Uneven surfaces like stairs and hills. Stairs are really difficult to place ladders on. There are a few manufacturers to where they build a ladder to where you can have one side of it higher than the other. Just generally a good idea not to use ladders on stairs. And then on hills, it prevents some issues putting ladders on hills. And I think the best way to combat that is to make sure that you have a spotter or a hiller. And we'll show you what that should look like here in a little bit. And then make sure your surface isn't slippery from snow, ice, or water. And then one thing that to really keep in mind is that there's some construction materials that become very slippery when they're wet, specifically composite decking, like your Trex type decking. That stuff, when it gets wet, it becomes very, very slippery. All right, so let's talk about some stable surfaces. Cement pads are great stable surfaces. If you're going to be using a metal ladder, make sure you have like a rubber foot on the bottom of it to make that, to have a good connection point. Gravel is a really good stable surface as long as the gravel isn't too deep, but it does a good job of holding ladders in place. Maintain lawns. I wouldn't put this on, I wouldn't want to put a ladder on a lawn that wasn't maintained because that top layer of dead grass could easily slip away. On a lawn that's over-maintained, over-watered, there's a good chance your ladder can slip into the dirt as you're climbing it or as you're on top of it. So not a good idea there either, but a normal, well-maintained lawn to where maybe you could get the heel of the ladder to drive into the dirt just a little bit, but it's stable enough, it's not going to sink. That's a really good stable surface. Carpet's a great stable surface to put ladders on, a lot of friction there. And then rubber matting is another good one. All right, so setting up a ladder. You want to make sure to look for overhead obstructions. Scan your work area prior to bringing the ladder to where you're going to work. Walk the route that you're going to bring your ladder from to where you need to take it, and look around 360 up and down. What are my obstacles going to be? What do I need to stay away from? Make a plan. Okay. Look for electrical lines. You really should stay a minimum of 10, but more like 15 feet away from from any wires. Okay. I don't assume that the wires aren't live or that they're not electrical. The truth is we just don't know, and it's not worth the risk. Look for other obstructions. Do you have overhangs on your house that might obstruct you as you're carrying your ladder in? Not only is that going to be expensive if you hit it with your ladder and you ruin your fascia, your soffit, or your gutter, it also could potentially cause you to drop the ladder or for you to twist or to fall, thus injuring yourself. Are there tree branches? Same deal as house overhangs. Tree branches can be a big issue. You might get your ladder stuck in a tree branch, which then puts you in a bad place trying to carry the weight of a ladder and trying to work it out of a tree branch. Fences present some pretty unique challenges, especially when carrying ladders. If you can't go above a fence and you have to go through a gate or something like that, do you have enough clearance to get through the gate of the fence and still make the turns on both sides that you need to make without hitting something? And like I said, make a plan before you move and know what your plan is. And then this is one that I probably need to use myself, but get some help. It's always good. It's always better to get some help. We get in a hurry. We want to just get the job done. It's a good idea to get some help, somebody to help you carry the ladder, somebody to spot for you, somebody to give you a heads up. Hey, you're getting close to that electrical wire. It's always good to have a helper. All right, so next thing on setting up ladders, make sure that locks are engaged. On extension ladders, you'll see here, this piece here, this is a lock, or it's called a pawl, or in the fire service, we call them dogs. This is what engages, this is what locks in the extension, the fly extension, so the part that you raise up, that's what locks it into the base. That's the part that just stays in the same spot all the time. Make sure that these are all engaged and locked in. A lot of times you can get a ladder that I said, maybe it goes up a little bit cockeyed, where you'll get one of these that locks in all the way and the other one's only locked in halfway. Make sure that they're all locked in, because that is what's going to distribute the weight evenly. And then on your A-frame ladders and your step stools, pay attention to these hinges here. Those hinges can, like I said, get stiff. They can, and not want to go all the way down. There are a lot of times when an A-frame ladder gets overused or used improperly to where the ladder gets twisted and it will twist these hinges. These are just cheap pieces of metal that are easily twisted and manipulated. Make sure that they're straight, that they're locked in the way they're supposed to be before you get on it. All right, let's talk about some physical maneuvers, but I think it's time for a little video on ladder safety, and then I'll talk some more. Let's see, this one should work. It's embedded. Let me know if it doesn't. Obviously not the right way to carry a ladder, not the right way to treat a ladder. So, all right, so physical maneuvers. We talked about 3 points of contact. Always want to maintain 3 points of contact on a ladder anytime that you're on one. This means either 1 foot and 2 hands, or 2 hands and 1 foot. This picture here is a good example of each of those. This may require that you get an assistant, that you get some help to hand you up tools or supplies for what you're doing, because it can be hard to maintain 3 points of contact as you're climbing a ladder. And then another good idea is to use a tool belt, so that way you can have your tools ready for you, and you don't have to worry about carrying them up and down and not being able to maintain 3 points of contact. So how high can you go? Don't go above the top. Don't go above the top 3 steps or rungs of a ladder. Okay. On A-frame ladders, never, ever, ever stand on top of an A-frame ladder. That's for paint buckets. You're not a paint bucket. That is super, super unsafe. You will most likely fall. And then refer again to that safety sticker on the ladder for the designed working height. What about multiple people on ladders? Never on an A-frame, never ever on an A-frame. For extension ladders, I refer to manufacturer recommendations. What we do in the fire service is we have a rule that no more than one person per section of ladders. So we might have one person on a base and one on the fly. Our ladders are rated to be able to carry that much weight. They're designed that way. So make sure that you're looking at that sticker. It's going to give you the weight that the ladder is designed to carry and whether it should allow multiple people or not. General idea, it's just best not to put multiple people on a ladder. All right, so we've talked a lot about a spotter or a healer. This person helps stabilize the base of the ladder. If you can stabilize the base of the ladder, you can control the entire ladder, no matter what you're doing, okay? They can also call for help. If something goes wrong, they can be the ones to call for help and to give first aid. So how do you heal a ladder? Well, as you can see in this picture, the best way to do is you stand behind the ladder, take a wide stance, okay? And then reach out to the ladder about shoulder height, grab the sides where the beams are and pull them back and down. So you're pulling the ladder into the ground is basically what you're doing. You're creating more like a triangle shape between you and the ladder, which is a really strong shape and a really strong way to help stabilize the ladder. Number one thing though, don't look up. If you're on the back side of the ladder, don't look up, okay? You can also heal a ladder by standing in front of it, putting your feet against those bottom, the bottom beams of the ladder and then holding the beams with your hands. This is a better way though, going from behind. All right, how are we doing on time, Jamie? Doing all right?
Yep, we've got about 10 minutes. If people have to jump off early, I'll just start the poll early and we'll let you keep going so we can just keep the recording going. So we're good to go.
Okay, I'm going to fly through this stuff. Okay, fall data. We all know falls are a big issue. National Safety Council, over 6.8 million falls in 2019 went to the ED. In 2020, it was the #3 leading cause of preventable death at 21% or 42,000. And preventable injury was the #1 leading cause at 6.8 million. And that's just in the US. So what to do if there's a fall, call 911. First thing you want to do is, after you call 911 is check for major bleeding. A lot of people have learned to first assess airway breathing and then circulation. That has changed. Now we check for major bleeding and we control that first. And we can do that with direct pressure or tourniquet. I'm going to skip this stop the bleed video. And then after you've got major bleeding controlled, check for their airway to be open and are they breathing. We should open the airway with a jaw thrust maneuver on these types of patients. If that doesn't work, then go ahead and move to your head tilt, chin lift, but better to avoid that if necessary. And then, is the patient breathing normally? We used to ask, is the patient breathing? But we changed that to the patient breathing normally. So if the patient's only taking 3 breaths a minute, 4 breaths a minute, or if they're grunting or if they're snoring, that's not normal breathing, okay? So is it normal or is it not, okay? Now, if the person that's fallen from the ladder is unresponsive, if they're not breathing normally, then you want to go ahead and start CPR. Always better to do CPR if it wasn't needed than to not do it if it was needed. And then don't move the person. We all know that, suspected spinal injury, just don't move them. All right, electrical safety. So when you're putting lights up, make sure that you look at the box to see how many light strands you can connect together. LED lights are much better than most other light bulbs, they produce less heat. You can put more strands of them together. You can typically put 8 to 10 times the amount of strands together. Inspect them, look for damage. Is there any fraying, burns, deterioration, sharp bends, cuts? If any damage is on it, throw it away. And then look at the circuit size that you're going to plug these lights into in your home. Is it correctly sized? Is it 15 amp? Is it 20 amp? Will those circuit sizes meet the amount of lights that you're putting up? All right, extension cords. Extension cords are bad news. Try to avoid using them if you can. If you still plan to use them, never, ever use more than one extension cord at a time. We go on fires all the time because multiple extension cords have been used. They're not designed to be used that way. Again, inspect it for the same types of damage that you might look for in any electrical strand. And make sure it's rated for what you're using it for. Is it the right amperage rating or wattage rating? Is it the right weather rating? Is it rated for indoor? Is it rated for outdoor? No sharp bends. Make sure nothing is sitting on top of the cord and compressing it. And only use extension cords temporarily, not just temporarily as I'm going to have them up for Christmas, but hey, I'm only going to have my lights on for a few hours during the day, pulling current through that extension cord. Never ever staple your lights or electrical cords or nail them. This will damage the outside sheathing and insulation. It will expose the conducting wires. It can compress those wires inside, which creates more resistance and then allows heat to build up. Use those commercially designed clips to secure your lights. It's a better idea. And then if you're going to plug the lights in or decorations outside, you need to make sure your plugs are GFCI and tamper resistant rated. These plugs are designed to detect shorts more quickly and to shut off. If you have a GFCI that is tripping all the time, don't manipulate it to make it stay on. There's a reason it's doing that. Maybe the GFCI is bad and just needs to be replaced, or maybe you've got too much current that you're trying to draw through it. So don't manipulate them. All right, storage and disposal of decoration. So electrical components, you want to place them in a container with a lid on them to prevent UV breakdown. Okay? Batteries, we're seeing lots and lots of issues with batteries, especially lithium ion. It's a good idea to remove them completely and put them in a separate container, okay? Don't store them with other combustibles like ribbons, plastics, wreaths, etc. I do want to show this quick video here just because I think it's a good example of what a lithium ion battery can do. When it starts on fire. This is a lithium ion battery scooter. And if you'll notice, the thing with lithium ion is there's a whole bunch of little cells in the battery. And when those start on fire, they start to explode and they spray out, causing spot fires all over the place. So right there, you saw those sparks. Those are all the little cells that are carrying fire to other places. All right, and then on your materials or your decorations that are made from natural products like hay bales, corn stalks, etc., just best to get rid of them. They're already dried out. There's no use to really keeping them other than save some money. They can grow mold. They're a fire hazard. They're dirty. So best to dispose of them. Typically, you can just throw them away in a garbage can. Some cities may have ordinances against that, but best to get rid of them and not store them through the winter. All right, when you are storing things, make sure to put heavy items on the ground. If you have lighter items, you can put them on shelves. Just make sure you can use a ladder safely to get them off. And then it's a good idea to mark the outside of those storage containers so that you know what you need to get and where it's at. All right. Trying to hurry through this so we get to the good videos. Christmas tree safety, like I said before, artificial trees absolutely recommended. Make sure you're inspecting all the electrical connections and wiring for damage. Dedicate one plug for just the tree, okay? And don't use extension cords when you're plugging these trees in. Okay? Keep them away from heat sources such as fireplaces, electrical heaters, or candles. And then on our live Christmas trees, make sure you always have water in the base. You want to check the needles daily. A good thing to do is you just run your hand down a branch and see how many needles come off. And then also look, are they green, are they brown, are they yellow? If it is dried out, get rid of it. It's not worth the potential fire hazard of having that tree in your home. And again, thoroughly inspect all the lights you're going to put on there to make sure you don't have any exposed wires that could light that tree on fire. And then only attach the amount of light strands together that those lights are designed for. Keep these trees away from heat sources. Again, fireplaces, candles, electrical heaters. Also heat vents. Heat vents from your HVAC systems dry live trees out very quickly, and large windows with exposing sun. You get the radiant heat from the sun, and then there's a magnifying effect that happens through the window to dry these trees out. And if you have any other questions about why you should water your Christmas tree, hopefully this is a good example. So on the one side, the dry tree, the other side, the water tree. We've got a timer down on the bottom. Look at the video on the dry tree. You see this, it looks like white condensation coming up. That's actually not, that's called pyrolysis. And that's the breakdown of those products. They're getting ready to light on fire. That's how much heat is in that room right now. And we're only 39, 40 seconds in. So obviously dry live tree can cause some major issues in a home. All right, so to summarize, take the time to use your ladder safely. You aren't immune from falling. We saw from the data that there are a lot of falls that happen throughout the country every year. Inspect all your electrical decorations, follow the manufacturer recommendations, store batteries separate from other combustibles, consider artificial trees, always have water available for live trees, throw out a live tree if it begins to dry out, and get rid of live trees as soon as possible. Once the holidays are done, I'd get rid of it. All right, and last but not least is my pitch for the fire department. It's called Close Before You Doze. And I think I'm gonna have to stop sharing and then go here.
Perfect. And as you're doing that, I just launched the final poll if anybody has to leave early, but we'll keep recording and finishing what you got, Scott.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
In the event of a fire, who here thinks that you're safer sleeping with doors open?
I keep them open because I was a mom for so long.
My kid's room is 2 doors down from mine, always open.
I'm not all that confident they would stop anything anyway. Harold, hey, Ben, nice to meet you. Harold, have a seat. Chris, how are you?
Great.
As you think about fire safety? What keeps you up at night?
Yeah, I'm not too concerned. I probably don't think about the fire quite as much as I should because I do forget to turn things off.
Have you ever been through a fire? We told you that you'd be coming here today for discussion, but what we didn't tell you is that there's also a demonstration that we want to show you. Sound good? I want to introduce you to Steve, the director of the UL Firefighter Safety Research Institute. I'll let Steve take it away.
Welcome. My job is to lead a team of people that study how fire grows and spreads so we can keep you safe. Here at the Delaware County Emergency Services Training Center, we essentially turn this place into a laboratory. We've got several structures around here that we build to simulate where you live. And one of those structures is right here behind me. What I want you to do is I want to take you inside here and I want you to see how this looks like your home. And then once we get you outside, we're going to go ahead and recreate what would happen if there was a fire in this structure right here. Looks pretty normal. Yeah, got some furnishings. You'll notice the difference down here. As we walk down, this bedroom door will be closed and the one at the end of the hall will be open. And what I want you to do is pay attention to comparison of the two of those and think about you and your family trying to survive this fire. All right, we just hit the button. We have ignition.
Oh boy, here she goes. Oh man, that is scary. It's scary, right?
Like we have
What a lot of people don't realize is that the furnishings that are in our homes today are made of synthetic materials. So they burn so much faster than your old natural cotton-filled furnishings used to be. The statistics that we've seen through our research is in about 40 years ago, you had about 17 minutes to get out of your house after the smoke alarm sounded. Now you have less than 3 minutes.
Yeah, see, this is the things that we were. Whoa. You feel that? How do you survive that? Seriously, that is insane.
All right, go ahead, knock it down. All right, as you remember, closed door on the left, open door on the right. And you can see the dramatic difference between the two with the simple closed door. We want people to be as prepared as possible and understand the importance and how little time you have and what that simple barrier can provide to you and your family should you have a fire. I want you guys to throw some hard hats on and some safety glasses and at least poke your heads in the windows, or you can even walk in the hallway if you want. Give me a word or phrase to describe what you just saw.
Anxiety.
Frightening.
Terrifying.
I really didn't expect anything like this.
Now I ask you one last time, in the event of a fire, are you safer sleeping with the doors open or the doors closed?
Without a doubt, the door closed.
Definitely with the doors closed. From now on, the doors will be shut at night.
Definitely closed.
Closed.
Definitely closed. And I'm surprised by it.
It's always great to be able to get the message out, where we can take our research and get it out into the community to change behavior with the message of close before you dose. And it feels great, and hopefully we can save lives.
If there was one bit of advice that you could give friends or family today, what would it be?
Close before you doze.
Close before you doze.
Close before you doze. Close before you doze.
Close before you doze. The key fire safety messages we want people to have are: one, have working smoke alarms in every level of your home, inside and outside every sleeping room. We want everybody to have an escape plan. Should you have a fire, you should know how to get out quickly. And if you can't get out quickly, having a closed door between you and where that fire is critical to your survival.
All right, well, that's all I have for you. I appreciate the time.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Scott. I know that we still have some people on, so does anybody have any questions for Scott before we end? I'll tell you, I don't close my doors at night either, but it gets too hot in the bedroom.
I'll tell you, I've seen this, I've seen that for myself. We had a fire where the entire house was gutted. There was one room with just the cheapest door you could possibly buy at a Home Depot, and it was fine. It was completely fine. So
I have one question.